let's just start from the beginning. What were the first years of life like for you? Tell them.
Well, my first years of life was different from most people. Um, I only knew my parents. Well, I didn't know my parents. Um, I contracted tuberculosis when I was 9 months old, and I had to go to the hospital, and I stayed there. So I didn't get a chance to bond with my parents. Most people, they bond with their children and get to know them. I didn't know anything about parents. All I knew was these white walls and the nurses and the doctors. I thought they were my family.
And
Uh,
you were how old when you went into the hospital?
9 months
9 months. And how long did you stay in the hospital?
until I was 7. At the age of 7, I was one of the first children that was able to have, um, I think it was called not streptomycin, streptomycin. I think it was the first one that cured tuberculosis. All the rest of the kids were dying and the rest of the people around them. But I had a praying grandmother that was active in church. And so she had been praying. I didn't know any of this.
And what was your life like from day to day in the hospital up until, do you remember much about being there, what a normal life would have been for a child?
Maybe the reason why I get lost now is in the hospital. They had to find me a lot because I was not one to stay in the bed. I was supposed to lay down and take medicine. The nurse had to find me a lot of times to give me my medicine because when I could get up out of the bed, I would go visit the other children. I would go visit anybody I could. I just was fascinated. Those white walls just seemed like they were fascinating to me. And then they would lead to different rooms and I just thought it was fun.
Now, did you ever get to go out? Did you ever get to see anything at night? Or, I mean, what was
No,
your life like as far as relation to the outside world?
none. I didn't see it when I got out the hospital at the age of 7. I saw darkness. It, it was all light. So I could relate to the Bible later on. When it was saying all light, I could relate. That's all I saw. It was never dark. It was never nighttime, never evening.
So you never saw a star in the
No,
sky?
didn't know what that was.
Didn't know what that was. So let's talk about after you left the hospital. Where did you go?
Well, my grandmother had a beauty shop, and she sold her beauty shop and bought a 36-acre farm. Well, at first they said that I could not come out the hospital. I couldn't go back to live with my mother. My mother stayed in a two-bedroom um, apartment with 4 other children. It was her and my dad and my other brothers and sisters. And so they said in the city I couldn't stay there. I had to be somewhere. I had to either go to a sanitarium or somewhere to live. I could not be with the other children. So my grandmother bought a 36-acre farm in Bethel, Ohio, which was 30 miles outside of Cincinnati. 30 miles away, she gave up and bought this farm, and that's where I lived. And I got a chance to play with, I had cats and, I mean, cows and pigs and all of that stuff.
And what are some things that your grandmother taught you?
Well, one of the things I loved was family worship. We got up in the morning and we had family worship. And we had this every day. It was like clockwork. That was news to me because we didn't do that in the hospital. And then at night, before we go to bed, her or either my grandfather would tell us stories about their past and about their life and everything. So that was worship again. So I kind of enjoyed that. I love that. I thought, oh, this was nice. And then I would go visit my brothers and sisters, and then they would, we would fight a lot because they thought I was strange. They didn't know me. I didn't know them. And so I felt like they were picking on me. You know, the rest of the people in the hospital, they never picked on me. I got along with all of the children there.
And you were there with your grandmother from the age of 7 until
12.
12. And what happened when you were 12?
My grandmother died of cancer, and I didn't know she had died. I was rushed back to my parents, and I kept wondering, where was my mom? Where's mama? And they never told me what happened. They just said she was gone and she wouldn't be back again. And I couldn't understand why.
Uh
And
huh.
and that led to turmoil between a lot of problems with my mom. She didn't know me, you know, and she felt like my grandmother had spoiled me and did a lot for me and so forth, and things that she couldn't do. So we kind of just couldn't make it. It seemed like I was always in trouble.
So, for the first time in your life, you actually lived with your family, your mother, your father, and your siblings from the age of 13
No,
until
from 12
and
to
12.
15.
From 12 to 15. And you were explaining what that was like for you for the first time.
Um, After a while, my sister and I, my brothers and them, we kind of made it. But I got to the point I would run away because I thought no one loved me. And I missed my grandmother. No one told me what had happened and so forth. So um, we just, no matter what I did in school, I was very good in school when I started going, made A's and everything. And I just thought, oh, maybe if I made A's and so forth, they would love me. And I would always try to do things to make them love me. And it seems like my dad and I, we played and got along. But it's something about my mother. It seems like um, something, I just rubbed her the wrong way and I couldn't figure out what it was. And it just made me run away.
So, you spent those 2 years trying to connect.
Yes.
And did you ever find that connection at that point in your life with your mom? And
No.
okay, so what happened after the time you spent with your mother up until the age of 15? What did you do?
Um, well, there was a teacher that came along. I was real good in school. I got in the band. In order to go places, I had to join things because they wouldn't let me go places. So I joined the band, and I was good in school and spelling and stuff. So I found there was a teacher that noticed that my grades started going down, and he couldn't figure out why, what was going on. And I hated when PTA and parent meeting came along because I knew my parents weren't going to come. So I would cry and I would get really, I kind of understood what they were talking about early. I did act out. I would get upset and I would be hard to get along with. And then I would calm down. And he started connecting things that there was something that was triggering it. And so I finally got a chance to confide in the teacher what was going on and that he knew about me running away. So he asked my parents if him and his wife could let me stay there so that I wouldn't run away,
So
so I
you
could
had a
finish school.
teacher come into your life. You had your grandmother, you had nurses, you had a teacher who was actually willing to open up his home
Hmm.
to you.
Yes. And so I stayed there for a while, and then I found out about the girls' Y. And you know, they were very good. They were very good to me, but I was getting older, and I felt like again, I felt sad because they had no children. So um, I just kind of felt like I would be in the way. So I found out about a girls' Y, and I moved in there, and I was working in school, and I met this cashier lady, and she was Adventist, Seventh Day Adventist, and she would tell me about the choir trips and all the places that she went to, and show me pictures, and I said, "Oh, I like that. I enjoy that. I think I would like that." And so um, she kind of took me under her wings and would tell me things and bring me things to read. And so from there, I finally worked my way to graduate from high school, living at the Girls Y. But I never got involved. I was blessed. I never got involved with the wrong group. That was, now that I look back over it, saying, God, you really took care of me, because I could have went all kind of ways. I could have went on drugs. The people around me were doing it, but I was wondering again. So it's good to wonder because that didn't interest me. So I guess they thought that I was a square, and they never did try to get me involved in their kind of their activities. And so I was glad for that. And I finally graduated from high school on my own. And after that, after I graduated, I came out pretty good. Um, and then I met my husband. And how I met my husband was I was going to visit my mother. And my cousin was coming down the street, and my husband was with him. And he introduced me. And when he told me his name, I said, Lamb, are you any kin to Willie Lamb? And he said, yes, that's my brother. I said, oh, we're in the band together. And I said, what school did you go to? And he told me the school. I said, I've never seen you. I go to that same school. And he said, I've never seen you either. So we kind of met and kind of hit it off. And he would come around every day. I couldn't understand. At that time, still, I had no boyfriends at that time and wasn't really interested because I had too many other things going on. And he would come by my job, and he would always, he was playing basketball, and he would come by to get some water. And so we kind of met. And then when I got off of work, he was there too. I'm saying, what is wrong with him? So I'm trying to be kind and really nice. And I'm wondering, what is this guy keep standing around for? And we started talking and so forth. And eventually we married 6 months later.
Amen. And to this day, you are still happily married.
Yes, we've been married. It'll be 52 years this year.
And how many children did you all have?
We have 6 children,
Six
and
children.
and I have 5 girls and 1 boy.
And I have heard from her story, and I know she's going to share a little bit more, but I've heard from your story, Carollyn, that your children have gone on to do great things, and your children's children are now going on to do great things. And I am just at wonder with what God has done in your life because of the rough start that Satan tried to get you to have, how you just kept going. And anyone from the outside could have thought, she is lost, she's wandering. But you really had an anchor the whole time, and God put people
Mm-hmm.
in your life the whole time. Wrapping it up, just tell us a little bit about your family.
Um, God has blessed me to have, and I have some pictures of the family. You'll get a chance to meet them, and I'll introduce you to them. God has taught me to, when I first got married, I didn't know anything about how to stay married, but I remembered one thing my grandmother said: a family that prays together stays together. And it was strange that all of our friends that were getting married was getting divorced. I'm saying, what is this? And so Lee and I vowed that we would put God first. Now, the strange thing about it, he agreed to join the church. I joined a Baptist church at first. And then 2 months later, I joined the Adventist church. Now, my husband said, wait a minute. This is moving too fast. Do you know what you want to do? And I said, yeah, we have to stay together. And they're doing everything that my grandmother taught me to do. They have worship. They, they're in church. I thought it was fascinating to stay in church all day. Oh, I thought that, because most of the time there was either, if you were in the other church, we were selling things, or you didn't want to go, and people were going to the church and going to the movies afterwards, you know. And to stay in church all day and have something for young people, I thought that was fabulous. So when I started having children, I started doing things with them. I started trying to figure out, wait a minute, how do I work with these children? I didn't even play with a doll when I was coming up. What do I do with these children? And so I started just reading. I read my parenting was reading. And then going back to what my grandmother had taught me, trying to have worship, doing things with them, spending time with them. And I made sure that I would go to their PTA meetings because nobody went with me to a PTA meeting.
So let me ask you this, and wrapping it up. Were you going to show us a few pictures of your family?
Yes, they were
Okay, while they're
showing up.
getting that up, it's just
This is my
amazing to
husband.
me. There he is. It's amazing to me how you had no connection with your family, your immediate family, but yet you were so successful with choosing a mate and rearing a family. What would be your secret to this Wonder Woman?
Um, my secret is trust God, and God will help you where you don't know how to do certain things. I've learned totally to lean on Him. And one of the things, I don't believe there's nothing I can't do. This is my grandson. This is my grandson by Erica, my third daughter. I have 5 daughters. I'm going to, as they go rolling by, I'll show you which one. This is my fourth daughter. She's a teacher in Huntsville, Alabama. This is her husband. And when she married, he had 3 children and she had 2. So now they have a blended family. And I love my son-in-laws. I have the best son-in-laws. It's unusual. And then this is the baby girl. This is Christia. Shauna knows Christia. They went to school together. And Keisha and I think Patrick went to school with my son and my children. This is my only son. My son is a chaplain, and he's a master barber. He's a phlebotomist. Um, he has all kind of different. He has a business degree, and he's working to try to become a full-fledged chaplain. And this one here is Christia, the baby girl. She's married to Quentin. Quentin did surgery on my husband when he had cancer. He's a urologist, and this is their 2 children, Q and Jackson. We call him Jack Attack because he is a Jack Attack. He is into a lot. But she owns a child care center and a drop-in center, and plus a daycare at the same time. And they're in Hawaii now. But this is my grandson, oldest grandson, right? He's going to school to be a doctor. And this is Lee Jr., and this is my grandson, Josh, who's graduating this year. He will come out of high school. My son has 3 boys. This is my son again. And this is him with his son. And they're all active in church. All of my children are in church. None of them, they all went to Seventh-day Adventist school. They never saw public school a day in their life. I have one daughter that has a special need, and then her daughter has a special need. Her daughter has Asperger. And so I've had to raise special needs children, along with, I have now have 22 grandchildren. So we all kind of get together. And out of all of this with my brothers and them, I want to bring something back. My brothers and sisters realized that something was different and that they couldn't understand the disconnect that I had with my mom. And my brother called me one day and said, you know, your kids are amazing. We've been watching them on Facebook. I didn't know that they were watching all the graduations and the stuff. It's something different about y'all. And it's got to be your religion. It's got to be your lifestyle. You're different. None of your kids have been to jail. None of them have gotten into trouble. And we want to see what that is because we don't have that. But I have been sending them the Message magazine for years, about to give up, thinking, oh, this is a waste of money. But now they're all asking about God. They're asking, they're giving their heart to the Lord. They're talking about church. My mom and I finally got together. You know, we talk now and we tell each other we love each other. What happened was I didn't hold it against her. The Holy Spirit showed me that she did the best she could with what she knew. And that's after having a child, I know I'm doing the best that I could do with what I know. So what you know, that's how you raise your kids. And she didn't know to keep searching, but God kept pushing me. And that's how I learned. And I fell in love with children's ministry because to work with children, you can't be satisfied with what you're doing. You've got to keep learning. You've got to keep growing and keep being a child yourself to kind of understand them. And that's how my family and I are to this day.
Well, I just want to say, Carollyn, you are a wonder woman in my book. You
Thank
do
you.
wonder quite a bit. But, yes. But you also keep me in wonder and in awe of what God is doing through. And I want to thank you for sharing
you.
your testimony.
Thank you.